Now that I have found her along the way, now that I have found you,
whenever I'm asked to give my journey or talk about, how I got here, I'm always like, okay, I'm gonna paint this pretty picture. I'm gonna make it sound like this, make it sound like that, everything together. But when I'm trying to do that, or whenever I'm trying to do that, I feel like the more messier it gets. Whenever I'm trying to put everything together perfectly. And I'm a little stubborn, so I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna make it sound, real good. But honestly, I always feel like whenever I try to do that, I started losing major pieces and major moments that actually make me who I am today. And so every tear, every setback, I thank God for it because it's part of why I'm here in medical school today, and I'm trying to be a doctor. So I'm gonna give it to you as messy and as real as it was because I think that's important. And so, like I said, I grew up in Patterson, New Jersey, and before I had dreams of being a doctor, I had a big hoop dream. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was going to the NBA, I was playing for the Lakers, and that was it. But I had a good friend of mine, his name was Armani, and he was 6'6", talented. I mean, if anybody was going to the NBA, it was him. And he was kind of like our leader in our community. And not because of what he was doing, right? We all knew he wasn't going to be going to the NBA. But it was something about having somebody in the community that you could look up to and know that they're doing something that they're passionate about and they're on the right track. And one night, me and Armani, we went to a party, and unfortunately, we part ways, and Armani ends up getting shot and not surviving. And so this was a tragic moment for me. Not only was he a close friend, but I felt like in our community we kind of lost someone who was a leader, who was a role model, and who kind of inspired everyone there. And from that moment, I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, but I knew whatever I did, I wanted to have that same impact that Armani did. And so fast forward a couple of years later, I ended up coming to Princeton to this program called the Maturity Scholars Program. And I was the only black male there. But one of the things that I noticed talking to my peers and my colleagues was that, the first thing I noticed was I got there, no sirens, the air smelled a little different, no liquor still in the corner. And that was my first time really getting outside of my bubble of Patterson. And it was a major culture shock, I guess you can say. And not only that, but one of the things I realized when I started to get to know my peers was that my family history was a lot different than those who I was talking to. So for me, I always share that, I blood pressure runs in my family, cancer runs in my family, diabetes. And this was kind of foreign to some of the peers that I was talking to. These kind of conditions that seemed so familiar with me and I was used to having to deal with and go with my grandma to the doctor. It was like a whole new world for those who I was talking to. And I think, the passing of my friend and having this experience, the one thing that I knew I wanted to do was bridge the gap between my community and those majority of society and be that kind of role model and leader that was missing when I was there and when me and my peers were growing up. And so I was fortunate enough to do posts like many of you. And that was the first time I kind of got the chance to meet physicians and doctors who looked like me. And that was the most inspiring thing, honestly, having the chance to see, okay, this is what it looks like. This is where I can be in a few years if I put the work in, if I surround myself with the correct people. And one of the biggest things that I noticed in the post-program was that the lack of representation that was in medicine, and how this underrepresentation often led to misdiagnoses, overdiagnoses, or just plain discrimination. And that kind of touched home with me, especially coming from where I come from, knowing, okay, these are the specific barriers and issues, and part of it is just not having people who may look like me to relate to and to tell, my colleagues or my coworkers, no, it's not that they're not compliant, but they might have 2 or 3 jobs, and they may be a single mother, and it's hard to keep up with that regimen. And so that's where my passion lies, to be a physician, and I believe that, for me, this is a calling, and I wouldn't be here without posts, without the experience that I had. And so I wanted to share that with you guys, just to show, or just tell that, as messy as the journey may be, and as perfect as sometimes people may paint the picture, getting there is not pretty all the time. But somewhere in that journey, you find the beauty in it, and when you reflect on it, you realize, okay, everything happened for a reason, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And so that's my story. That's who I am. Again, I'm Monte Simmons. Thank you all for being here, and we hope you have fun throughout the Outlook's activity.
You made that hard to follow up. But all right, so my name is Isaiah Hughes. Like I said, I'm from Willingboro, New Jersey. So Borough, you know, Borough Pride. But I don't know how much y'all are familiar with it. And it definitely has changed over the years. But currently, it's basically like a black suburb. So not necessarily all of like the inner city problems, but it's still like I would call Borough like a wannabe hood almost, because there was stuff that you would see that resembled the inner city. So some of like the social determinants and stuff like that I would see on the daily. So even like just the healthcare system, like the hospital, like nobody would really want to go to the hospital because it was like, oh nah, like, that's not a good place to go. So whenever we were sick, we would go, you know, out of the town. There was also like little things like that I would see. So I would tell you, almost similar to Monte, growing up, I told my mom I was going to go to the NFL, and she said no. She was like, that's not probably going to work out, so find something else. So for the longest, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't really have a career choice until probably high school. And initially it was physical therapy. So it was because, one, I always loved sports. I ran track, I played football, played soccer, all that. Also, there was one time that I would stay with my grandmother sometimes, and she would have to go to physical therapy and stuff like that. And I would see like how that helped her. So joining together like I want to help people, like, because again, it really did help my grandmother. So I saw that. And then also being the fact that, like, you know, it combined how much I like sports and the biomechanics of the body. So I was like, I'm gonna do that. But you know, I believe in God, and God works in mysterious ways. So up until college, that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna do physical therapy. Even going from high school into college, like, so I was trying to go to another school. Like, I ended up going to Rome, but I was trying to go into another school. But I didn't qualify for the scholarship. So I had to retake my SAT to qualify for that next scholarship. And my mom was always like, oh, you're going to go wherever you get the most money in scholarships. And my dad worked at Rome, so it was kind of hard to beat no tuition. So I retook my SAT, qualified for the score, but my score never sank. And that program would have been like a 3+3 PT program, and I would have been locked into PT. I didn't get into that. So here I am. I went into Rowan trying to do physical therapy, and I started hearing about Pulse. Ernest, my man back there. I still remember that conversation we had at Starbucks. I don't know if you remember that, but he introduced me to Pulse. He introduced me to PM&R and stuff like that. Told me how Pulse is going to be, and that's really where I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna be a doctor. Doing the Pulse program, that first phase, that's when I actually saw like Black physicians, like Dr. Porter. I don't know if any of y'all met Dr. Porter. Very, very fun personality if you ever get the chance to meet him. But before that, I had never seen like a Black doctor, so I always believed in the thing, you can be what you can see. So growing up, I never saw a Black doctor, so once I was able to get into Pulse and like be connected to those type of people, that's where I first met Monte. That's when I was like, oh yeah, this is tangible, I can do it. So ever since then, I've been running with it. I definitely want to, like, future plans, go back into my community, be able to be like a face, you know, help with pipeline programs like Pulse and stuff like that, because that's what I advocate for a lot, making sure that we get more, you know, Black kids, people of color into these positions of power, positions of like medicine, and being able to actually change and, you know, commit to their communities. So that would be my little 2 cents about how I got here.
Okay, so based on, you know, our passion and our commitment to medicine and also to getting more representation in healthcare, like Isaiah was saying, I met him in Pulse phase 1. in the first year, we didn't really talk. I don't know why we just didn't have the same like friend group really. But because of the impact course, we were able to study together, and that's really when we started to have this friendship and this bond. And we used to go to the gym, where it'd be like having to do these crazy workouts, but we'll be in the gym and we'll just be talking about what it's like being a black male in medicine and some of the barriers and struggles that we go through, and how our experiences is really unique, and this mission that we have to be that representation and be those role models to get for the people of color inside of medicine. And so, with that in mind, we started this podcast called Black in Medicine, and it's exactly what it sounds like. So we talk a lot about our journey in medicine, some of the barriers and struggles that we overcame. We also try to advocate, we try to advocate for people of color and for black people, and to emphasize these social determinants of health, these health disparities, and this is something that we're passionate about. And I think Isaiah was like that. Let's run with it, and that's what we've been doing. And so this is the barcode that you can scan to find us on YouTube, Instagram, and to get in touch with us.
Everybody scan.
Everybody scan.
Yeah, so again, just to echo what Monte has been saying, we definitely want this podcast to be something where we're kind of talking about like our experiences, because again, there isn't a lot of people of color, black guys in medicine. So it's really to show like what it's really like. And hopefully in the future, again, my whole thing is reaching back. So hopefully we can, I guess you could say like advocate and try to get more black kids and, again, minority kids into medicine, really, because that's what we need. And we speak about our experiences. Sad reality of it is there's not many of us even in our class. It's just really just us two guys and Cam and Kathy. That's really the only black people, in our class. So again, using those experiences and using the things that we see, that's what we like to talk about. So we also made a little trailer. So yeah, we're gonna show y'all a little trailer. I produced it, we recorded it. But,
Of course, always remember that medicine is your first line of study.
Oh yeah.
I think for me, it started here. For a lot of us, it starts here. Whether it's this basketball court or a football field, the dream is always here. To be the one that brings their family from the party, to be the one that someone like you will want to look up to. We just haven't done, especially for us. So what do you do? Only role models of rappers, singers, and ball players, no privilege, not where you from. Just you, and the struggle's not made you understand. I'll tell you, you carve your own path, you make your own way despite the community shows you, despite what history tells you, but most of all, despite how challenging it may be. And that's what this podcast is about, discussing what it's like to be black in medicine, and how I, and many others like myself, carved their way, and continue to carve their way, through a field where only 5% identify as black. Not only will we be sharing our experiences and help to educate and help you, but also discussing the many health disparities that exist among black communities, often as a result of racism, lack of representation, and lack of trust. And this will be the intro.
That was a little trailer that we put together before everything, but we do have 2 episodes up now. We have one dropping this Sunday. So stay tuned. All right, so now we're going to get into another little activity.
First question?
Yeah, first question. So if y'all ever watch YouTube or anything like that, there's a little segment thing that they do. It's kind of like a spectrum map. So you stand over here if you feel like this. You stand over there if you feel like that. So that's what we're going to do. Get y'all a little moving, get to know each other a little bit more.
So everybody stand up.